Hello students, today we are here to learn another one new chapter of 10th standard, that is Heredity and Evolution. Before starting this chapter, let's recall the thing what we have been learned in the 9th standard. There is in the 9th standard, I think you maybe have got an introduction related to reproduction. Even in the 10th standard also you have a lesson of reproduction. Reproduction is one of the basic necessity of all living organisms, and by means of the reproduction there is organism they can give rise to their young one, and the young ones are going to be quite similar to their parents, but not exactly similar to their parent, just it is a quite similarities we can able to observe it. If you observe the different types of organisms which are being exist in the nature, we will find so many differences. The differences such as, for example, like you have a sugarcane plant. In a sugarcane plant, if you observe, you will find very less differences. Whereas in the case of the human being, you will find lot of differences. What is the reason for the differences? It is because of the heredity and the variation. So first of all, I'll say what is the meaning of the word heredity. Heredity means transfer of character or a trait from the parents to their offspring. It is called as heredity. You are all know that you are all came from your parents, and your parents came from their grandparents, and from one generation to the next generation, the characters are being going to transmit. If you compare to your parents, your eyes are quite similar to them. Your nose is going to be quite similar to them, not 100% as it is, but you will find some kind of differences. And these characters are being transmitted from one generation to the another one generation. That process we call it as heredity. And what the differences you are going to observe from you to your parents, what the differences you are going to be observed. These differences we call it as variations. So even they maybe can ask one more question: what is a variation? The difference between the characteristic or trait. Trait is another one word for characters. Among the individual of the same species are called as variations. So whatever you will find the differences from you to your parents or from your grandparents to your parents, that all the differences we consider that one as variation. You can able to observe, I have collected some pictures here. You can able to see all the leaves are in the same type? No. Does the grapes are in the same? No. Does these beetles are in the same? No. Everyone are quite different from each other. So these differences from their parents to the offspring, these differences will consider it as variation. So let's move on to the next slide. This variation, it will be arise mainly because of the reproduction. And you know that we have the two types of reproduction, sexual and asexual reproduction. Whereas in asexual reproduction, we are not going to find more variation. But variations will be there, but very less variation we are going to observe in the asexual reproduction. Whereas in the sexual reproduction, we observe more and more variations. The reason why, because in the sexual reproduction, we are going to involve the gametes. That sex cells are going to involve in the reproduction, and resulting in which the variations are going to be arise in the next generation. And when organisms reproduce, the offspring show minor variation due to the inaccuracy in the DNA copying. You are all familiar that you are all getting the character from parents, and your parents are transmitting you the character, and the characters are being transmitted by means of this DNA. And you know that we have haploid set of chromosomes. We have the diploid set, but during the time of reproduction, we know that we have the two types of cells for the reproduction. In the male, we have the sperm, whereas in the case of the female, we have ova or the egg. Total number of chromosomes in the human is 46. and this 46 chromosomes are been present. This 46 chromosomes are been present in the cells. You have the cell structure you have studied in the lower classes. In the cell we have the nucleus. Inside the nucleus we have chromatin network, and during the cell division this chromatin network winded up into the chromosome, and this chromosome contain a genetic material called as DNA. And in almost all throughout our body cells we have the 46 number of chromosomes, but especially in the case of the sperm and the egg there is 23 chromosomes. This 23 from the male and the 23 from the female, totally they will combine result to form 46 chromosomes. But when these chromosomes are being transmitting from parents to offspring, if there is a quite increase in the chromosome like 47, or otherwise if it is get decreased to the 45, then result in the variation. Variation is nothing but the difference in the character. The difference in the character is arise because of the difference in the genetic material. If there is a quite variation in the genetic material, then only the variation will arise. So you can able to observe here either 47 or otherwise 45 is a major thing responsible for the variation to get arise. And during that, DNA copying mechanism is carried. So during the DNA copying mechanism, for example, I will make you to understand. I have a piece of a chalk. If I made you to make a same copy of piece of chalk by using the another new one, can you make it as it is 100% same? No. Why? Because even if you try also, you'll find some kind of differences here. So this differences only we consider as variation. During the DNA copying mechanism also, there will be some inaccuracy will be happen. Due to that inaccurate mechanism of DNA copying, the variations will be less in the asexual reproduction. As I told you before, in asexual reproduction there will be the less variation, whereas more will be in the sexual reproduction. Whereas these variations are very beneficial. Both good aspect also we have, even we have the bad aspects also. Whereas some variations are useful and they are helpful for the organism to adjust to the changes in the environment. Some variation do not help the organism to adjust to the changes in the environment, and they may be die and they become extinct. What is the meaning of that? It is in the reproduction lesson you maybe have gone through one example. Some bacteria who are been living in the water bodies, and suddenly there is a rise in the temperature of water body due to the global warming. Due to the increase in the temperature, maximum bacteria will die, but few of them they will get survive. What is the reason they got survive and they got died? The reason it is the bacteria who got survive, they have the variation, and that variation makes them to survive and adjust better to the environment, whereas those bacteria who have died, they didn't develop the new variation, hence they have been died. Whereas we have the both positive aspect and even the negative aspect of the variation. So remember, variation is very beneficial for some organism because it makes the organism to adjust to the changes in the environment. Sometimes that variation will be not adjustable for some organism and they may be die and they will extinct soon. Okay. Rules of inheritance. How the characters are going to be transferred? Characters are transferred to the genes present in DNA molecule, in the chromosome present in the nucleus of the cell. Already about this I have highlighted at the beginning introduction itself.
Yes, sir.
That is all the organism, the fundamental unit of all the living organism is a cell, and the controlling unit of the cell is a nucleus.
Yes,
and inside the nucleus, as I told you, we have the chromatin network, and that chromatin network during the cell division it will be wound up to form a chromosome, and inside the chromosome we have the DNA. Inside the DNA there is another one, a fundamental unit which is responsible for the transmission of character, that is the genes. In human being totally we have 50,000 genes, and each gene control one specific character. And if there is a small changes happen, then only it is responsible for the variation. Let's go through it. The inheritance of the character is due to the fact that both the father and the mother contribute to the equal amount of genetic material to the child. So, for each trait, as I told you, what is the meaning of the word trait? Character. So, each trait, there are the two factors, one from the father and one from the mother. As I explained before, cell division is one of the major factors responsible for both the development also and even for the reproduction. And in the 9th standard, I think you maybe have learned that we have the two types of cell division, mitosis and meiosis. Whereas mitosis cell division, it is helpful for the growth of the organism. Whereas a meiosis cell division, it is helpful for reproduction. Whereas in the mitosis, always there is a formation of equal number of chromosomes. Whereas in the meiosis, it is a reductional division in which chromosome will be get off. So that only, as I explained here, total number of chromosomes in the human being is 46. And sperm has 23, ova has 23, but remaining all the body cells they have the 46 only. Only in the sperm and the egg we have the 23 chromosomes. And this sperm is present in male. This ova is present in the female. So that only I have highlighted the point here. There are the two factors from the father, one from the mother and one from the father. They will equally contribute. For the inheritance of the character. So that only you maybe have a 50% character from your father and a 50% character from your mother. So now we have to determine how these characters are going to be get transmitted from one generation to the next generation. How these characters are going to be get transmitted. For that, different scientists they have conducted the different experiment. One of the pioneer scientists, his name is Gregor John Mendel. He conducted the experiment with the garden pea plants and determined the rules for the inheritance of the character. We need some rules. Without the rules, we can't able to understand any subject. So, even we have to understand what is the reason for the inheritance, transmission of character from parent to offspring. What is the reason for that? So, for that he determined the rules. That rules we are going to study in this chapter. Did you got it? Let's move on to the next slide. It is one typical representation that as I explained you, where we have the DNA, and this DNA is responsible for the transmission of character, or it is a unit of heredity. Before going to the Mendel experiment, why that Mendel he has selected the pea plant. Why we can't able to select the other plant, only he has selected the pea plants. If you are going to select someone, there should be some special property should be there. In the same manner, this pea plant also have some special properties of the character. Because of that only, the Mendel has selected the pea plant. This pea plant, they can be grown everywhere. You can grow it in the open ground also, even you can grow it in the pot also. And their life cycle is very short, and we have different contrasting character, that is comparable characters we have in the pea plants. So some examples I'll say you about that what are those contrasting character. That contrasting character itself they have took here to explain the rules of inheritance. There is if you took the height of the human as one character, we have one short and we have short and long. Short and long. In the same manner, stem length also in the pea plant we have tall and broad. In the same manner, there are 7 contrasting characters are there in the pea plant. Shape of the seed, color of the seed, shape of the pod, nature of the pod, position of flower, Like that, there are the 7 contrasting characters are there. By utilizing this 7 contrasting character, Mendel have conducted the experiment to determine the rule of the inheritance. So, Mendel is considered as father of genetics. So, before going to the Mendel experiment, I'll say you about what is the meaning of the word genetics. Genetics is a branch of science that deals with the study of rules of inheritance, or even you can define it as genetics is a branch of science that deals with the study of gene and its behavior. Why I am saying gene and its behavior? As I told you, gene is one of the unit of the DNA which is going to control the character. Now we are going to study about that, how the characters are going to transmit from one generation to the next generation. Hence, the study of gene and its behavior is also being concluded as a genetics. Okay. Now, let's go through it, how the Mendel has conducted the experiment. Before going to that, there are some basic terminologies we have. The basic terminology is, first terminology is about the phenotype. Phenotype means external appearance of organism or external characters of organism is considered as phenotype, phenotypic characters. In the same manner, we have genotype. The genetic makeup of organism or genetic constituent of organism is considered as genotype. You got external appearance of organism is considered as phenotype. Genetic makeup or genetic constituent of organism is considered as genotype. Okay. In the same manner, another one we have dominant and the recessive characters. The character which express itself without the aid of anyone, it is considered as dominant character. The character which will be remain suppressed, they are considered as recessive characters. Okay. And another one terminology we have, that terminology is homozygous and heterozygous. Homozygous means if the characters are being represented by similar pairs of genes. For example, as told you, one of the contrasting character of the pea plant is a tall. So I will represent that in by using the alphabets capital T, that is TT. I am using here the character with the similar or dissimilar. Similar. If the characters are being represented by the similar pairs of gene, then it will be considered as homozygous. If the characters, I will represent the tall in another one form. For example, capital T, small t. If the characters are being represented by dissimilar pairs of gene, they are considered as heterozygous. Okay, remember this basic thing. One is a phenotype, I said. Phenotype means external appearance of an organism or external characters of organism. Genotype means genetic constituent or genetic makeup of organism. Then homozygous, if the characters are represented by similar pairs of gene, it is considered as homozygous. If the characters are represented by dissimilar pairs of gene, then it will be the heterozygous. Okay, and even dominant and recessive, the character which will express itself without the aid of anyone, it will be considered as a dominant character. If the characters are remain suppressed, that is, in the presence of dominant character, if another character is remain suppressed, such characters are considered as recessive character. So the first experiment conducted by the Mendel, it will be considered as a monohybrid cross. Mono means one, hybridization. What is the meaning of the word hybridization? Hybridization means a technique of bringing new characters by cross-pollination. Already you have been familiar with what is the meaning of the word pollination, and we have the two types, self-pollination and cross-pollination. But we can bring out the new character only by the cross-pollination. So Mendel is going to select the one character and that one character he will use it for the cross pollination. He will conduct the cross pollination experiment and he will show the new result, and that experiment is considered as a monohybrid cross. Even then we can ask in your exam, define monohybrid cross and represent with the help of the Punnett square. So Mendel selected the pea plant having only one pair of characters, but I said in the pea plant we have how many characters? 7 pairs of contrasting characters we have, but here is going to select only the one pair of characters, and is going to cross a tall pea plant with a short pea plant, and he selected a pure tall and a pure dwarf pea plant, and he done cross pollination, and he obtained all the plants. That is, you can able to see here. First he selected a tall and short plant and a tall plant, and he crossed with them. As he crossed, in the first generation, he got, you can able to observe, he obtained all the tall plants in the first generation. That is a F1 generation. F stand for the Falerian generation. You can able to observe in your textbook also. That is, in the first generation, he got only the tall plant. But when the first generation plants were being self-pollinated, first he done the cross-pollination, then he done the self-pollination. He obtained the both tall and dwarf plant in the ratio of 3:1. And this 3:1 ratio, what he got, we consider that ratio as a phenotypic ratio. Why it is a phenotypic ratio? Because this tall and dwarf character we can able to identify externally. We can able to identify by external appearance. We can able to identify any person who is a tall and who is a short. In the same manner, we can easily identify here who is a tall and who is a short. We can able to observe here we got the 3 tall plant and 1 short. Hence the ratio will be considered as 3:1. This one we can able to observe as an external. Hence this ratio is considered as which ratio? Phenotypic ratio. It is considered as a phenotypic ratio. Okay. Whereas in the same manner, let's go through it as a genotypic ratio. And that genotypic ratio, he determined. You can even observe in your textbook that you have one Punnett square. If they have been not represented, I will represent here. Tall character he is representing with capital T. Dwarf is representing with small t. As you know, some steps are there. This is the first tall plant and it is a dwarf plant. So the character responsible for the tall is capital T and the character responsible for the dwarf is small t. And when we cross this both in the F1 generation, we got capital T, small t. And I said in this tall and dwarf, tall is a dominant character. At the beginning itself I said this terminology, dominant character is a strong character which made its impact more on the recessive character. So in the F1 generation we got which plant? Tall plant. Okay. Whereas this after obtaining the first generation only the tall plant, he didn't stop the experiment, he continued further. That is why which pollination I said? Self-pollination he conducted. In the self-pollination, he took the same plants, he crossed and he represented with the checkerboard, but here I represented in the diagrammatic manner, but here I am representing with the checkerboard. You can able to observe here, he crossed, there is nothing but self-pollination he is going to do here. Capital T, capital T, capital T, small t,
capital T, small t,
capital T, small t,
small t, small t.
Now, if you observe to the parent, it is a pure tall plant, and even it is also a tall plant because along with the recessive character we have here dominant character, hence it is also a tall plant. And even this one also it is a tall plant. So we got how many tall plant? 3. And it is a pure dwarf plant which is quite similar to the parent, hence we have 1 short plant. So this ratio is a phenotypic ratio. Whereas, let's go through the genotypic ratio here. It is a pure tall plant as we compare to the parent, it is a quite same. Whereas even they are also the tall plant, but inside if we go through it, we have some differences. There is some genetic makeup has been done inside to make it as a tall plant. So such tall plants we have. How many tall plants we have? Two. And this is a one plant we have which is a pure drop. So the ratio will be 1:2:1, and this ratio is considered as a genotypic ratio. Did you got it?
Yes, sir.
And based on that monohybrid cross, he derived the law. That law we call it as law of segregation. What do you mean by that? Law of segregation. The pair of factor responsible for particular character. This is a pair of factor. Capital T is a pair of factor responsible for tall character. Here the pair of factor small t is responsible for short character or the dwarf character. They are separating in the equal ratio. You can able to see here only one t has been separated. Here one t has been separated. They are separating in the equal ratio during the gamete formation. During the gamete formation, this law is considered as law of segregation. Once again, I'll repeat the statement. Listen, what is law of segregation? The pair of factor responsible for particular character separate in the equal ratio during the gamete formation. Okay. Then he concluded here. There is a tall one of the during the transmission of character from parents to offspring. The character which will be dominant, it will express more, and the character which is recessive, it will be remain suppressed. Then further he proceed more with the next experiment, and that experiment is a dihybrid cross. Already you know that di means two. Here the Mendel is going to select how many characters? Two characters. And the two character is, one is with round yellow seeds. As I said in the 7 contrasting character, now is going to select the two characters. One is round yellow seed and the another one is wrinkled green seed. That is, here he is going to select color of the seed and the shape of the seed. As he crossed, first he done the cross pollination. In the first generation, he got round yellow seed, whereas this plants were being once again self-pollinated. And as he done the self-pollination, he got an amazing new result. The amazing new result, in sense, he got a complete different types of plants with the ratio of 9:3:3:1. That is 9 round yellow, 3 round green, and the wrinkled 3 wrinkled green. Only one is a very quite different. That is, one is a wrinkled green. Here wrinkled yellow we got, it is a wrinkled green. So this ratio, what the Mendel has obtained, this ratio is considered as a that is a phenotypic ratio. Whereas for your syllabus, genotypic ratio is not there. You are going to study that in the higher classes, just to remember the phenotypic ratio in the 9:3:1. So then we can choose a correct answer question also here. What is the phenotypic ratio of the dihybrid cross? The phenotypic ratio of the dihybrid cross is
9:3:1.
Even then we can ask a 3 or 4-1 question. What is dihybrid cross? Explain with the checkerboard. So this checkerboard also you have to derive it. Okay. This is one typical representation of the dihybrid cross. And by using the dihybrid cross, Mendel have derived the second rule of inheritance, or even I can say that one as law of independent assortment. Law of independent assortment means, I will derive that law. The pair of factor responsible for particular character. Here, how many pairs we are taking? Two pairs. round and yellow, round and wrinkled and the green. Two pairs we are taking. And RR is controlling the round character, capital R, small r is controlling, it is controlling wrinkled character. Whereas the capital Y is controlling the yellow, small y is going to control the green character. Then we have two pairs of character. The pair of factors now controlling the two different characters. When they are separating in the F1 generation, when they are going to separate, the R is not depending. That is, round is not depending upon the wrinkled, or yellow is not depending upon the green. They are moving independent of each other. Did you got it? The pair of factors controlling the separate character, they move independent of each other during the gamete formation. This law is considered as law of independent assortment. It is the second rule of inheritance. Okay, first rule is law of segregation. Second one is law of independent assortment. Did you got it? So now we have got a conclusion. That is what is the reason for the inheritance of character. Mendel have derived that in one simple manner with the monohybrid and the dihybrid cross. His experiment are further proceeded with the different scientists. That one you are going to learn up in higher classes. Whereas based on that, even we can determine the sex of a child. You are all familiar, human beings have how many pairs of chromosomes? 23. Total number of chromosomes will be 46. 23 pairs of chromosome in the nucleus of the cell. Out of these, 2 chromosomes are considered as sex chromosome, X and Y. The females, they have X chromosomes. There is the sex chromosomes. In the males, it will be represented as XY. Whereas in the case of the females, it will be represented as XX. Did you got it? And I said we have the 2 types of cell division, mitosis and the meiosis. The meiosis cell division is helpful for the reproduction. During this meiosis cell division, equal number of characters, that is equal number of chromosomes are being distributed from both the pairs. That is 23 from the father, 23 from the mother. So out of this 23 pairs of chromosome, 1 pair of chromosome, it will be determine the sex of a child. You can see here, the male carries the XY and the female carries XX. So when they will fuse, the result to form the zygote. If the male transmit an X chromosome, that is nothing but a sperm which carries the X chromosome to the female who have the Y egg, then the resulting child will be the male. If the sperm carries the X, and the egg carries also the X, then the resulting child will be the female. So by this we can clearly conclude that the sex of the child is determined by father. That is a male, not from the female. Did you got it? And in your textbook there is another one fact also we have, which is helpful to determine the sex of a child, that is environment. Whereas this one will be done only in the case of the lower organism, that is a turtle as an example, in which the sex of the child is determined by the temperature, that is environmental factors. Whereas in the human, the sex of the child will be determined by the pair of chromosome. As I said, that last pair of the chromosome as a sex chromosome. In the male it is represented as XY, in the female it is represented by XX. If the male transmits X sperm and the female carries a X egg, then the resulting child will be girl. If the male transmit Y sperm, if the female transmit an X over, then the resulting child will be the
Male.
Then by this we can clearly conclude the sex of the child is
Determined by the
determined by the
father.
father.